So Patrick, why did you do the anthology?
Well, it started with the need to do something that would celebrate the 80th anniversary of the group, which is quite a landmark. And we're writers, so an anthology was a natural choice, but it was also a choice that would involve large numbers of the members. We wanted to get, and I think we did succeed in getting practically everybody who wanted to write something. There was space for it to go in, and therefore it's representative of the membership as a whole and provides a lasting souvenir of what we have done.
So Laura, how did you pick the writers and how did they choose what to write about?
We asked members to contribute and who wanted to contribute to the book, and as the book is to celebrate the Circle and its members over the 80 years that it's been running, we thought that we would ask every member to contribute if they wanted, and have their piece, have their story or poem in the book. And we got a really good reaction. People, all members wanted to contribute. So we had a great selection of stories, poems and non-fiction stories to pick from. But we could get everyone that contributed with members, we got them all in. And also we asked them for the theme with the arts, because obviously writing is part of the arts as well.
Yes, the thing that makes me most proud is that we did actually succeed in doing it, because it was a little bit more complicated than we thought. It was a good decision, I think, not to let the entire committee loose on it. Laura and I were leading this and involving other people as and when. Because of course there's numbers of stages going on in parallel with something like this. Everything from writing the blurb on the back to chasing up the people who are writing but ignoring the deadline. So it was a logistical exercise, but other things went very favourably. There wasn't, I think, a single submission that we rejected, though we had to say at the beginning, if they're not good enough, we might do that. And we're very proud of the whole thing, not least as a record for members, but as something to show non-members and prospective members.
I produced about a dozen different designs for the anthology cover. There's a couple here, another one here, and the final design appears on the cover. I wanted the design not to reflect where we were 80 years ago, although the anthology is celebrating our 80th anniversary, but really where we are now. So I opted for a modern look. I chose a circle not only because it reflects the title of the book, but also the name of the Brentwood Writers Circle. So where was I going to find my circle? I looked at several options, but what I chose in the end was a blue ceramic dome that sits in my garden. After modifying the image in Photoshop, I think what it has is a look of the planet Earth, plus a three-dimensional feel to it too. And I think that may reflect our global reach. The other image used down here is books, which seemed fitting. And I took that from an earlier painting that I'd done. And as you will see there, the painting was of books stacked vertically. And again, I modified that in Photoshop and turned it on its side. The colour palette was gifted to me by the Brentwood Writers Circle logo. They're very eye-catching colours and contrasting.
The circle started during the war when our founder, Elizabeth, couldn't get to London to meet with her fellow writers at the Society of Women Writers and Journalists. They used to meet at Stationers' Hall, and that was a no-go area. And this doughty lady was very cross, and if she couldn't meet with her friends and colleagues, she was going to start her own group. And this is what she did in Brentwood, in her home, in the parlour, I think they called it, and with about 6 people who answered an advertisement in the Brentwood Gazette. That cost her 6pence in those days. She started, and it grew, and it grew. her connection with London brought Vera Brittain to Brentwood. Only for a short while. I've done the research, and Vera Brittain brought other people, tremendously famous people, to Brentwood. And they used to have lunch in the High Street, in a place called Norrishes. And gradually the group grew through the 60s, into the 70s. But unfortunately, Elizabeth had a very bad illness, a debilitating illness that took her into the local hospital. And there she wrote her books for 10 years before she died, and those books were published. They were books about love, and she wrote about history too. She wrote a lovely book about the history of Brentwood, which we still use.
All try to help each other, and this is one of the most important things about the circle, I feel. This is a circle that's gone from strength to strength over the years, as Colin will say in a minute. We started with small numbers. I remember once when only 4 turned up. It was New Year's Eve, I think, or sometime like that. And it wasn't a good time to have a meeting. And it's grown from there to 60. And we still want to encourage new members, those who've done writing before and can share their ideas. Whoever has even a tiny interest in writing, come and join us.
Of all sorts of writing. When I first started, we had about 35 members, and we've got up to 60 now, which is wonderful. And they are idiosyncratic writers in all sorts of genres. We have people who write science fiction, poetry. We have people who write letters to local papers, to local government as well. We have people who write novels, and everybody is willing to help everybody else and support everybody else. And the networking is wonderful. And meeting once a month as we do, it's very good to be able to talk to each other. And we have different sorts of meetings. We have meetings where we have well-known professional writers, editors who come along and give us their guidance. We also have people who come along and tell us how they started their own writing. And we have others who come along to help us with exercises to develop our own writing. So we have all sorts of things like that. We also have times when we read our own work, and getting feedback is wonderful. Helpful feedback, supportive feedback of how to improve your work. We have people who write memoirs, people who write poetry, people who do local history, people who do all sorts of novels, adults, children, and we support everybody when we do that with all these different sorts of meetings. It's something for everybody, it really is.
Brilliant.